All right.
Yep.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of The Three Neighbors. I'm Dave.
I'm Vic.
I'm Kevin.
And today we're going to talk about financing and the economy a little bit and how you can, just a few ideas on how we can help you overcome some of the challenges. So I know we were talking earlier about some of the tips and tricks that you can utilize to benefit you and your family financially. And typically there's two ways to do this. You can either make more money or make cuts.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of start off. And for me, one of the cuts that I've made was just eating out. And I think that the statistics that I saw here recently was that the average person spends about $206 a month, over $200 a month just on eating out. And that could be, coffee at the Starbucks, McDonald's, or something at night, DoorDash, all that. But the average is a little over $200. And I think that's made a great impact on my life financially, especially in these times where inflation's going up. But how about you guys?
Well, I'll say for me personally, I mean, I'm right there with you, cutting back on eating out. That was something that we did about 3 years ago when we looked at our finances to look to see kind of where was our extra money going, where was it going to? You have some fixed expenses. You won't be able to change. You can change a mortgage if you refinance. You can't change the amount of money you put in your gas. But what you can change drastically, at least in our household, was eating out, dining out. And we were spending, I won't even tell you the amount, but it was, pretty much every week. There was takeout, there was eating out in restaurants. As your kids get older and they get out of that kid meal type of price range and they're eating full-size meals just like you are, now it's, $150, $200, sitting easily.
But it's only $12, Dad.
Yeah,
Right?
only.
And then you add those up over time. What about you, Vic?
So are you saying, I wanted to get where you're thinking it. Are you saying that since you started eating out, that it's kind of lowered your expenses? Is that what it is?
Yeah, so since I stopped eating out so much now,
Okay.
I think there's nothing wrong with rewarding yourself. Everything in moderation. So if you wanna eat out once a week,
Right.
and that could be a lunch or a dinner, you can still reward yourself.
Right.
But I think it's a lot of it. People get busy. People don't want to cook, and there's so many options out there for meal preps and stuff.
I think I had misunderstood what you were saying. I thought you said you were eating out and it was a kind of a financial decision which was better for you.
Oh yeah, no.
But also when you think about it, it might make sense as well. Depending on what you want to eat, you could plan to eat out just once a day. When I was a single person, I wasn't married. It was actually cost effective for me because I could spend about $15, just eat like a good meal in a day, well cooked meal, and then have breakfast and maybe lunch or whatever. I could have some kind of junk food, whatever, or maybe something very light, And when you calculate $15 a day for a whole month, that would be about, is it closer to 300?
That's a little more than that. This is almost
Let's say 600.
yeah, a month.
I'm not for 30 days, 15. I'm not good at maths, but I know. But if it's then over 30 days, it's 300. So 15, that would be 150. So you're looking at $450, which is not bad if that's what you budget just for a month, just eating out, right? But this is a single person. But as a family, and you have other members of your family eating out, that's very expensive, definitely. I think it depends. Like, for example, also, I think it has to do with members of your family, the kind of their personality as well. Like my boy and my wife, they're very outgoing, right? They, my wife just want to get out, right? Because I won't blame her because she stays in the house the whole week.
Yep.
And Saturday, Sundays that she has time, she wants to go somewhere, right? And by going somewhere,
Just money.
Exactly. There's really nothing you could do. You can't really go to the mall and just, find things to enjoy without spending money buying stuff.
Right.
The other family thing you could also do would be to eat together. Maybe let's just eat lunch. And before you know what's happening, it's $60, $70 gone. Right.
Easily.
Easily.
Yeah, I know. So for now, I think, which is why I wanted to hear what you guys wanted to say, because cutting back on some expenses will be good.
Well, I think one of the things Dave was saying is, there's so many different ways to prepare food at home now. You have so many things that are, being pushed to you to show you how to meal prep, how to plan out for the week. So, if you don't plan, you run into a bind and you end up running out and eat food. And like you said, $60, $70 is just for takeout. And that's not even dining in. So it's one thing you can be conscious of.
Yeah, let me say something before. I don't want, what I said to be misunderstood. My wife does cook, right? Like on Sundays, she cooks for the whole week, right? So Mondays to Friday, we rarely eat out except for special event. But Saturday or Sunday is one of those days we often would just either eat lunch or dinner outside. And it's also a way to kind of reward yourself, at least for a week of hard work as well. And also have a family time. But I think once you have family, especially young family, teenage age kids as well, it's almost impossible not to spend money eating out. It's almost impossible as well, especially if you're conscious about having family time. Either it goes on food or it goes on something else, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, for me, it's a lot of the questions I get is like, do you cook? And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
But you're only cooking for one.
You really cook?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
But for me, I'm actually cooking for 4 or 5 because I'm meal prepping.
Right.
So, I can take spaghetti and make, 4 meals out of that. And yeah, you can get tired of it, I guess. But I mean, you can also have substitutions in there, whether it's, your typical sandwiches or something like that. But yeah, to your point, I agree that you've got to have those psychological kicks of rewarding yourself, and you can do it on the small scale. Now, do I agree with that with larger purchases like cars? Well, I need to reward myself. If you have debt, you've already spent that car.
Absolutely.
Right.
So you need to kind of step down a little bit and maybe go into an older 4, 5, 6-year-old vehicle that's dependable. It's going to get you there, but it's not going to throw you into debt.
Yeah, and actually, that's a trick though. I think, like I have 2021 Atlas. It's kind of a big car. Like for me personally, of course, we know that eating out could be one of the ways to cut back on, spending. Also, I think the choice of car, like you mentioned, it's also very important. I'm the type of person that, I'm happy to kind of get a small Fiat that is like $7,000-8,000. Like I'm so comfortable with that, right?
But when you have a family,
yeah, it changes the whole thing. I remember when we're in the market trying to get a bigger car, and my wife was like, "I want an 8-seater car." I'm like, "What are you doing with an 8-seater car? We're not even." Like, well,
that's a spread out.
Sometimes I want to take the kids on excursion. I mean, the kids on the day.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So we were going for an 8-seater car, but I know that we were okay just going for a 4-seater, right? At least a family of 4. That should have worked for us, But so my point is, it also depends on the season of life that you are in. And sometimes as men, even as women that are also breadwinners, you could go ahead either way. We want to do whatever we can do to reach an agreement and have a bit of a compromise, right?
Absolutely.
With our partners. We ended up getting an 8-seater car, but I can't remember any time that we used the third roll of the seat, right? But yeah, it is, it is there. I wish, preferably, I would have liked to get something smaller.
Well, I totally understand.
In fact, there was a car that I saw that I really liked, but I didn't have an option when it comes to buying a car for the family.
For the family.
I have to go with what so it becomes really tricky.
Absolutely.
Well, you bring up a good point, and I want to kind of throw this out there too, and I'll just tell you about my personal experience. When you're married, have a significant other, it seems like it's a competition. on who can spend more. That was just my experience. And, you know, the wife at the time or your girlfriend or whatever, you know, I'm just throwing this out there, but they would come home with handbags and shoes, and you're like, oh, well, if you did that, now I can go get my new leaf blower or weed eater. So, you know, the spending kind of goes.
Right.
What's your experience with that?
Fortunately, I haven't had that. You know, we spent a lot of time in marriage counseling prior to. I'm not saying that cured all, but we were able to get those kind of, you know, what are your habits like? What do you do? How do you spend money? How do you approach this situation?
Right.
So fortunately, 20 plus years, we haven't had any issues around spending on money. You know, we've had some struggles, you know, at the beginning, of course, but never, you're spending too much or you're hiding money. Our money's always been jointly together. She knows what I make. I know what she makes. You know, I've heard people that say, nobody has no idea what I make. Or you have separate accounts, or, you know, nobody knows what the left hand is doing the right hand, which, you know, that works for you. Great, but yeah.
So I'll play devil's advocate on that. I've always agreed in having a joint account and then two separate side accounts.
Yeah.
And I think in the digital world that we live in today, like if I'm buying her flowers and it comes, right, you know, that's something that'll be seen. So, and also not to say that you're hiding anything, but it's like, hey, this is kind of my, if I want to go on a fishing trip or something like that, I'm pulling out of my account versus our account.
Look, absolutely. And we've had our separate, you know, spending, you know, it's always equal, no matter who makes more. You know, if I have $800 a month to spend, she has $800 to spend.
Right.
That's right. 1,000. So it's never been about, well, you know, I make 60% more than she does, so I'm gonna spend. That never works. Because I've talked to people who've tried that, and
that's ridiculous.
It doesn't work.
So are you saying that what you guys do is you have a joint account where the whole money goes into, and you count from there?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. I think also it maybe could it also the fact that you guys were able to manage things that well, could it also have to do with, let's say, financial literacy of one of the partners or both of you? Like your wife, you know, works in the bank. So do you think that also kind of?
I think it also comes from just the way we were raised. I mean, not saying that was the be all end all, but we both came from two-parent families, so we kind of saw what our parents did. So we kind of just mimicked, you know, what we saw. You know, kind of brought that together.
Very similar. Plays a huge role because
for me,
I could also see how that would play a role because a kid or a guy or a woman, it could go both ways. That's coming from a place of lack, or maybe a single household. This might be a stretch, but let me see if I could conceptualize this, and eventually get to the point where in a single household where there's nothing that is ever enough, right? And eventually they come to a position where either they're married and they're with their significant other, and somehow getting a bit of comfort, you know, maybe get a better job, or maybe the partner is bringing them money, or whatever it might be. Sometimes I feel that there's this psychological need to satiate those lack, things that they didn't have, and they end up buying stuff sometimes that they don't need. You know, I think to some degree maybe I might also be a victim of that myself, growing up not having access to things that I normally kids my age would have access to. I remember, you know, growing up wanting a bicycle. My parents never bought me a bicycle. You know, but they did that for my immediate younger brother after I had grown up and moved out of the house and all that. I think all those things have a psychological impact, right? You know, and so you think, like for me, one of the things that, you know, the way of me coping with things sometimes is just buying stuff. I'm not saying it's healthy, it's not, right? Of course, I try to find better ways of doing that so it doesn't really cost me a lot. Like maybe, for example, buying like a $2,000 jacket off a rack. Like that's like a lot expensive. I could go to eBay and find a jacket for $100, right? And that's kind of a way of me dealing with that without really breaking the bank. Does it make sense?
Yeah, so I look at that as experience too. So over the, you know, kind of to Kevin's point, over the years, you get more fiscally responsible because of that experience. But also, I think the older you get, you're not so concerned about the status quo.
Right.
You know, it's like you've got to wear the Jordans and the Nike shirts.
And about that, though, for most people, it's more or less mostly psychological than anything.
No, 100%. I couldn't agree with it more. My point is that I don't need all that stuff.
No. Yeah.
You know, you got to look at your wants, your needs. I think it was broken down 30, 30, and 20. So 30 are your, you know, like what Kevin said earlier, is the bills you have to pay. You know, that's your mortgage, your gas bill, grocery, stuff like that. And then there's 30% of like anything outside of that, entertainment, wants, and then the 20% of savings. And if you can manage that, that's kind of the template that you want to run for a successful economic lifestyle, if you will. But the problem with today is, I mean, we're I think over $1 trillion in credit card debt right now.
Highest ever.
Yeah, and then people are just, there's this thing where before, when you go to a grocery store and you grab a gallon of milk, you hand them a $5 bill and they give you the milk. Well, now they pull out the credit card and not only are they giving me the milk, but guess what? I'm getting the credit card back too.
But also,
Even the debit card is
Right.
But also, do you think also maybe the banks actually want people? Of course, they want people to owe money and be.
I mean, they make money, absolutely.
And there's a lot of incentive to do that. Like you go to stores these days to buy stuff, right? And they're like, oh, you can get 20% discount if you have our card. And our store card is just a credit card. They make it look like it's just something
With a much higher interest.
Yeah. And so you think about that, like it's not really what the whole.
Well, here's the thing. You being in academia, when I was in school in the 90s in college, in the student center, they would have tons of credit card booths set up. I didn't have no job, but I got a credit card. $700, $1,000 limit. Got a little bit of trouble, but you know, had no job. But because I was in school, automatically no income, no income of my own.
Right.
I qualified for a credit card.
Interesting. Let me recap. So we talked about with finances, the first issue being around you raised something that was the first
Like eating out.
eating out, and the other part of that also was what was the second?
The major purchases of cars.
Exactly. The card as well, and then we moved into. I think I brought in the psychological angle to just buying stuff to, you know, fill up something, a void or whatever. Which, and it's funny because everybody has I forgot what it's called, something that kind of, you know, get a chunk of their income. For some, it might not be, let's say, you know, buying stuff. It could be maybe an addiction, a particular addiction that costs you money, right?
Yes.
It could be many things. For some people, it could be things like even drinking, for example.
Gambling, drinking.
Exactly, gambling as well. I think those excesses becomes tricky. The question I have for us is, what do we do about those excesses? Do we cut them out? It's almost like impossible to sometimes. Or do we get them to a manageable minimum? How do we, or do we incrementally just gradually cut them out to the point it no longer has a hold on us? Or do we keep it to the barest minimum? Because at the end of the day, something will have to kill a man, you know?
Well, I go back to Dave's point about, you know, spending as you mature. And for me personally, I mean, my income has definitely grown more in the last 10, 20 years, but I spend less than I did.
Why is that?
I don't buy, I think to a point, not that I was trying to impress people, but I'm not tied to name brand clothes. I'm not running, buying clothes. Trying to have a closet full of shoes. Those things don't matter to me. I don't impulse buy cars. I've been driving the same car for the last 10 years. It may last me another 10 years. I'm not in the market to buy another car just to have the newest car.
Right.
So it's just, I think, like you said, as you get older and your values typically kind of change a little bit. I want to retire for one also.
Do your money go into something else?
Savings, well, I got girls in college now, so that too.
Right. There's always something within the money.
But if they were gone, I still wouldn't spend
But it's a good investment.
Yeah, I still wouldn't spend the amount of money I used to spend like on clothing. I just wouldn't do that anymore.
Do you think that you spend a lot of money in just the lawnmower, it's like he has different kind of equipment. Do you think that also kind of, he buys the seed, I don't know how expensive those things are, but I feel like it's an indulgence.
See, that
might be.
that would fall under entertainment, right?
That's
I can cut the expenses. It's definitely an expense I can cut out if I needed to.
Right. Okay. But my point is that there are things that really...
I don't overindulge. I mean, I don't. It's not. I'm not spending thousands of dollars.
It's not an indulgence, I would say, but just
I see it as a maintenance kind of a.
it's also therapeutic for me.
Yeah. Oh, but yeah, cutting grass.
Maybe it's not an expensive, hobby, per se. But if you go to the backyard and you see its equipment, it's like you could sell all those and you get about 100K. Just say something will have to kill, man. What about you, though?
Well,
what are your indoor indulgences?
I just think, well, as you guys know, I'm into bourbon. I enjoy it.
Right.
I'm more of a collector than I am a drinker.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a hobby for me. But if I could give you one piece of advice at home, if you're struggling and you're understanding why you're spending so much money, create a budget and see every line item. When you at the end of the month, when you see you're paying $300 in eating out, okay, maybe $200 in fuel because you're going extra places that you don't need to go. And to your point, that may be part of the psychology of a healthy lifestyle. But anyway, my point is you're seeing your prescriptions, you're seeing your rent or your mortgage.
Wow.
Subscriptions.
Subscriptions you don't even know about, and also you could even get an app that can help you track that. There's one called...
There are a couple.
I know they're not advertised, and you can pay us and we'll tell you about them. But there's one that I know that is really good. You could use that and it could track all your subscriptions that you don't even know that it's happening, right?
Which blows my mind.
I know.
Because I know everything that's being deducted. See, the first thing you're going to do is cut your wants.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
You may not go on a vacation. Okay. You may cut, to your point, the subscriptions in apps and stuff like that.
That you can track, though. The ones you can track. Like sometimes it's like
but if your money's going out,
you can track everything.
Yeah, so sometimes you can't. Like I've had this experience where I had like a charge. I'm looking at it, I'm like, which company is this? I set it to Google the name that they use to get the money. The company is in Ireland. I'm like, later on I found out that was Google. They set up an offshore company in Ireland and they charge people. So, it's kind of tricky. And sometimes I found subscriptions that I didn't know that was happening, right? And whenever I find that, I just, cancel it and not put it. But the thing is, most of the subscriptions, especially with apps and all that, they're very tricky and dodgy, right? Even when you sign up or purchase something, they keep your credit card number and put it on automatic renewal. And sometimes you don't even know that's what it's on until they charge you for another year or another month or something. It becomes tricky, but watch out for that.
That's kind of on you as a consumer. Like there's a lot of free trials out there that end after 30 days, and I'll do a calendar note, and then 3 days before, because you got to watch the terms and conditions, because they'll say, hey, 2 days before we're going to charge your account. Right? Yeah.
Do you read all the terms and conditions sometimes?
I don't have to. Nobody does.
I but just
but like you said,
sometimes
if it's 30 days, 25 days, let me know. So set this off.
Yeah.
And again, if you don't want it anymore, it'll say it's going to cancel after the free trial is up. I tell you what I like, and I'm going to point them out as a company, but Amazon, they have. If you look at Amazon, they tell you what before they charge you, and I think that is just phenomenal. I think that is such a great service that they give to their. It's not shady.
We're not always like that, though.
I think they all, well, in my
So we know
experience,
that,
But with Amazon, $100 can really shake somebody if they're not prepared for that $100 charge. Every
I mean, their subscription, like with their Amazon Prime and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Different
Yeah.
ways that they go all dodgy about it. I think maybe now it's different, right? You got to a point when I had to cancel my Amazon just because I'm like, they're charging me for 2 different accounts. I'm like, where's that coming from? You know, it's just, anyway.
But I like to just go back to Dave's point about budgeting. I mean, I know you talked about, the different apps that you can use, but at the end of the day, you have to get back to writing it down. If you don't write it down, you don't look at it, your money just goes. You have no idea, like you said, to be able to track, am I spending it on food? Am I spending it on this? What am I spending my money on? Because it can go just like that. And you're like,
I think a good practice would be maybe once in a while, every quarter, just print your bank statement and just track every expenses. I think that could be a good practice.
yeah.
I think, yeah.
We're going to go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, I want to focus on maybe credit cards a little bit and then auto loans and how people can kind of take advantage of that and how the dealerships and so forth take advantage of the consumer. So hang in there with us. We'll be right back. Right, welcome back to the Three Neighbors. Before we went on break, we had talked about ways that you could cut costs. Now we want to focus on a little bit of credit cards versus debit cards, and then maybe talk about the financing for vehicles and even mortgages and how that can impact your life both negatively and positively. So I've heard a lot of financial advisors saying stay away from credit cards and do all your purchases on debit. I mean, let's face it, not a whole lot of people are using cash anymore. Me personally, I think that this is all up to the individual.
Absolutely.
If you are disciplined enough to pay off your credit cards twice a month, like I do, you can really take advantage of these credit cards companies. My credit card right now, actually, I have 2 of them that I use. One is 2% cash back on everything I purchase. The other one is 3% cash back on travel and pharmacies and restaurants. So I'm very deliberate about where I utilize those cards. And then for me, this is just a personal thing. At the end of the year, I don't mess with that money. At the end of the year, I utilize that for Christmas.
okay.
So that's part of my Christmas. And I can tell you right now, I've got a nice little nest egg there for that. But I don't go for airline miles. I don't go for points. I go for cash back. And that's something that has helped me a lot. I don't care about the credit card interest because I'm fortunate enough to be able to pay it off. But if I don't have the money, just use it. Yes. If there's no money in the bank, then I don't use that credit card. So I'm kind of interested in your feedback, but for the viewers at home, don't think that you can take and pay off all your debt, say through a second mortgage or a consolidation loan, and then expect that it's going to get better. Because if you're not disciplined to do that now, you're not going to be disciplined to do it later. So if you do take out those loans, cut up those credit cards and start using the debit cards. But what do you, Vic, what are your thoughts on that?
There's pros and cons to it. I think it's about, like you mentioned, discipline is very important. When using a credit card, you have to use the one that really works for you for what you want. Like for me, I have a credit card and I often use it when I'm traveling overseas, simply because I don't want to hand over my debit card to anyone, right? Because there's a lot of risk involved with that, because someone could use it and just get money out of my account without me really authorizing for it. But with credit card, it's different as well, and it's safer in that sense. So for travel purposes, I think it's good, but you want to make sure that you pay it off every whatever, as soon as you come back,
monthly or something.
Clear it off and not owe anything on it. But of course, there are times that you might not be able to do that, and then that's where the problems start, right? Now the other part of that I wanted to talk about is also, unfortunately, people advising others not to get any credit card. It's really, I don't think it's good advice for everyone. For example, when I came to this country, I don't like credit card debts. I don't like owing debts for whatever reason. And so when I came in this country, I needed to build a credit score.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get anything done, even get a whatever, or get a finance and anything because of that. Even though I lived here for about a year plus, it still did not matter because they're like, oh, you don't have any credit card debt. You need to. In fact, one of the things that my bank officer had advised me to do was to get like the $300 credit card, and that I could use that to kind of boost more.
Yeah, the secured one.
Like, why do we need to do that to start with, right? So those are sometimes, for most people, that's the only way to build their credit score. And the system forces you to do that. Because without that, you can't really, it's like you have to have some kind of debt to function.
You bring up a good point, and I'm glad you brought it up. And this is not just for international travel. This is for everything. But if somebody gets a hold of your credit card and they charge it up, then guess what? You report that to the credit card company, they shut it down. However, if they do that to your debit card,
you're in trouble.
Yeah, because now you have all these other bills coming out. Now you're still going to get reimbursed for that. But during that process, why would you take the chance? I would rather take the chance with somebody with the bank's money than my own money.
Exactly. Yeah, especially if it's something that goes directly to your account. Like you want to have control of your debit card. Like I don't like giving out my debit card or even giving it to someone especially if I go to a restaurant.
Yeah.
No, I don't like that. I'd rather use a credit card.
Yeah.
So there are the pros and cons. And sometimes you could also be very smart in getting credit cards that really works for you, that helps you to get something back.
Absolutely.
Whether it's point miles or whatever. But the other thing I've also found that a lot of stores do, I feel it's a new mechanism to get their customers to have like their store card, which is usually a credit card with no other but Citibank, which
with no rewards, really.
Yeah,
maybe
essentially. And so they push that down your throat every time you're making a purchase.
Open this credit card,
and so eventually one day it might crack and you decide to get one, right? But it's of no use whatsoever, other than.
And it takes a hit too. You have any tips?
Yeah. Now, one thing I was thinking, you just mentioned about establishing credit in this country.
Yeah.
And now I have a 20-year-old who has no debt. She does have a credit card that she is disciplined and pays off every month because I make sure. But, I think about how I created, a credit history as a young person. It's not going to be the same path for her. She may not have an apartment for the next, 5 to 10 years. If I had an apartment, when I was 27 years old, she may not purchase a car within the next 10 years. So what does she do really outside of managing that one credit card to build up her credit history?
Well, that's a start. That's what I say. That's a start. And I think it's great that, to your earlier point, you could have these kids go to college and they can open, 3 accounts within a matter of 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. For her to be able to get one card and then build off of that is.
And sadly, one card is not enough.
It's not. It's really not.
Even with a $300, still, it did not do anything for me.
Yeah.
To the point that the bank was like, you know what? You might need to raise it to $1,000. And that's what I did.
You have to, because they basically look at how much of it. Let's say you set that card to $1,000.
Right.
If you're using only $100 and you're paying that off, say every month, or you're maintaining a small balance, you're not taking that credit hit. But if you're using $900, even though you're paying it off, they're still showing a high usage on that.
So it's I guess it's and I didn't want to have anything to do with a credit card, but I realized in the U.S. it's just part of the system. You've got to build a credit score. That's the only way you can have access to things, and not just financial assistance, even just merely just let's say looking for a house, right? They look at those things. I'm like, oh wow, so it becomes it's kind of something that is entrenched in the system, that we live in a debt society, and I don't know what whoever that owns the whatever gets out of people owing debts, but looks like it's part of a way to kind of.
So yeah, I think that
enslaved people. I don't know.
whatever your credit card company you're working with, the most major ones allow you to get alerts on spending, immediate. They allow you to freeze your card and unfreeze your card and all that other good stuff. So definitely take it. Yes. And if your thing is travel and you're flying a lot, then you can capitalize on one of the airline cards if it's staying in hotels or whatever the case is. But find one that works best for you.
Exactly.
And then capitalize on that. And some people are going to use it for emergencies, and I think that's wonderful. But you got to get to that point where you have enough in savings to be able to cover those emergency situations.
I agree.
So now I want to talk about, this is kind of a big thing for me because you guys know I love haggling. I love negotiating. So, yes. So, one of the biggest tactics I think that car dealerships utilize is, where do you want your monthly payment to be?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, if you're hearing that, run. Because now they're going to take advantage of you and they're going to give you the most expensive car that they can at your payment. Your payment's going to be a little bit more. They're going to say, Mr. Smith, look, I know you said you wanted your payment to be at $400. We got you at $430, but it's at 84 months.
Yeah.
Or something like that at a high interest rate. So my advice would be, look at the price of the car and what you're willing to do, what you're willing to pay for a car, and then base those monthly payments around that, whether you can do a 36, 48, or 60. I would never recommend a 72, 84 month loan. I would never recommend. You're paying so much for that vehicle. Yeah, and then again, one of the advice my sales rep told me, he says, look, we're not going to give you the trade-in price that you want for your vehicle. I can tell you right now. He says, go to this website, get an appraisal, and then we'll match it, because we don't want them to have your car. We want it. And so that's what I did. I walked in with the appraisal and said, either you want it or you don't.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And they said, we'll take it. And he comes back. He says, you'd have probably got about $1,500 less of an offer from us. Oh, wow. So I wanted to hear you. I know you purchased a bunch of cars.
Well, well, you got the same car for 10 years.
Well, with your daughters and stuff.
Well, yeah. Then we used. Well, I bought one car.
Yeah, one car. Yeah. One car master.
Well, it was a used car.
It looks like it's a brand new.
No, it's not brand new. Okay. I've got two.
It's very clean. You need to show. You need to see his garage. It's like
I give
like
it.
he had like 4 or 5 cars there.
Kevin's vehicles look like they're no more than 3 or 4 years old. Every single one of them.
Well, my 10-year-old car, I just waxed it last weekend because that was the anniversary. I said, let me put a little wax on it and shine her up. Yeah, so I'm keeping another 10 years.
Is it a Mazda?
No, that's the Toyota.
Oh, okay.
That is amazing that you did that. Yeah. Because I truly believe that if you invest in your car, that vehicle will take care of it.
Absolutely.
But just like anything else, a relationship, whether you're a parent, if you abuse it, it's not going to treat you good in the long run. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
that's great feedback.
For me, I like to have my financing before I go to the dealership. So I'll go to my credit union, and I've already researched the car. I know how much the car is worth,
right? And
that's how much I get my financing for. And I'll go down to the dealership. If they can't do it, I'll go to another dealership down the street. We've got multiple Toyota, Hondas, whatever, Ford, whatever it is, till I get that price. But I like to do that beforehand. Never go in begging. The best way to buy a car is when you don't need a car. Right. Unfortunately, sometimes things happen. You have an accident, your car gets totaled, and you have to get a car. And if you're not financially ready for it, I've been in those situations, but I don't like begging, and I won't beg.
Delayed gratification.
It's better to.
Will save you money.
As well, and then know the amount that you have, and then when you go in there, this is what I'm kind of.
If you know what you want, you have to take control of that.
Yeah.
I
remember when we were trying to find a car, we liked Dave's car that we wanted to get just that.
I like his car too.
We recognized that we cannot afford it. It's like a special edition, so. So the option that we had was the Atlas, right? Which was within the budget of the amount that the bank had approved for us, right? So that helped a lot, because otherwise what would happen is you're stretching it beyond you know, especially when, you know, my wife had wanted an 8-seater car. So we're like, babe, this is what we have, so we have to stick with this budget, you know. And then we got something within that, you know. But we really liked Dave's car.
I like it too. Yeah.
I would just say also to your point on the banks, go through the banks. I would also say, but not so fast. They're the automotive industry are offering 0% financing a lot of times that are much better than the banks. Or if you have bad credit, they offer you a rebate to kind of compensate for that. I would also recommend this. If you negotiate, if you're able to negotiate on the car, don't ever tell them you're paying in cash. That is a huge mistake. Now, it used to be cash is king, and they're gonna. But guess what? They bake that into the cost of the overall car. So if you can get, you know, let's say they're offering 3.9% financing, then you say yes, and they say how many months, and psychologically, you know you're already paying it off. Who cares? I'll do 60 months. They'll take money off of the top of that car because they're gonna capitalize in the end. Make your 2 payments and pay it off.
So you think there's no need paying something up front before getting the car?
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to put a down payment on it because that looks good on your credit history. You know, that you're buying, let's say it's a $50,000 car and you're putting 10% down. Okay, that always looks good on the credit. But long term, I hate a car payment. You know, I hate that somebody is getting money off of me.
I know.
And as soon as I could have paid, as soon as I was able to pay that truck off, I paid it off. I just, it just kills me that so many of these institutions are taking advantage. And then another thing, are you buying a new car? So
a very good idea.
It's never a good idea unless you can get some type of employee pricing on that. I know Chevy offers it, Ford offers it with an A plan, GM Chrysler does it, and you're getting their lowest possible price. That's fair if you can get that. You're getting some serious cuts over top of that. What I recommend, to your earlier point, I think it's great, and I hope nobody missed out on the great advice you got. If you can wait and delay gratification, if you need it now, they're going to take advantage.
Absolutely.
In my case, I ordered my vehicle, and if you go line item by line item and see how much you don't need, I don't need the pinstripe, and I don't need the roof racks, I don't need the moon roof or whatever. If you do, put it in there. It saved me thousands of dollars.
Sometimes.
And then, of course, it took me 8 months to get that in. But most of the time, if you order a vehicle, it'll be here within 90 to 120 days.
Delayed gratification.
Delayed
I
gratification.
think that's a key word, and that even cuts across almost everything that we talked about today. That if we can try to delay our need wants, or, you know, things that we don't necessarily need, that can go a long way to kind of give us, help us apply a bit of self-control and discipline, and get things that we truly need. You know, if we don't need to eat out, that's the point. If you can cook at home, why not?
Absolutely.
You know, make a good meal and sit on Netflix and just enjoy yourself with the family. If you can't afford paying off your credit card every month, just, you know, there's no point having one, right? So I think it's delayed gratification could be the key word
At the end of the day.
yeah. And also, I think there's a need to have someone that is more of an accountability on to help you kind of track your spending, but also kind of hold you to account. You know, when you're spending unnecessarily. Like for me personally, my wife does that. And we have kind of a code word when I get things I don't need, and she gives me the look, you know, and I'm like, yeah. But it's something I'm learning to work on, right? I don't there's always something that kind of eats our money, sadly, which shouldn't be, and we need to discipline ourselves better. I don't drink, I don't party, I don't, like, the only way I spend money would be on my family and sometimes on myself. One of the things that kills me is watches, right? I'm kind of a watch collector as well. And so, but I worked on disciplining myself, right? But still kind of, I'm not saying I've won the battle yet. You know, once in a while, you fall into the trap.
Well, if you get to the point where you cannot cut those spendings in the areas that we discussed, and a lot of people can't. I mean, this is a tough economy that we're in. There's opportunities out there where you can pick up another job, and you may not like doing it.
Yeah.
But DoorDash, the companies like that, Uber Eats, all these delivery ride shares, you can make $20-25 an hour.
Yeah. But is it really worth it though?
It all depends on how bad it is.
Like
I would do it.
I did it. Well, at some point when I was in Sydney, I realized like I was doing it and working. It just, the money is not really worth it because like you're, putting miles on your car, at the same time, they don't really pay you as much.
But guess what?
It works. If it works for you, really,
If you don't have groceries in the house or you don't have diapers for the baby, it'll be worth it.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. I guess if your spending kind of gets to the point where it eats in on your main budget.
Yeah. And then get into the mindset of you're not taking on this extra job
Just for money.
Well, yeah, but you're not taking on this job long term.
Yeah.
You're doing it just till you can get that under control. But if you increase that income, don't increase the spending. Right? That's the problem that you're going to have. Look, it didn't. You weren't able to get in debt in a week. Don't think you're going to come out here on Uber Eats and get out in a week. Okay, it's kind of like gaining weight.
Yeah.
It took you 5-6 years to gain that weight. Don't think it's going to take you 5 weeks to take it off. So,
and what we didn't even talk about, it's this buy now and pay later companies. In Australia, we had Afterpay. I understand Afterpay is now here in the US. Afterpay.
I've seen it pop up on
Have you heard about it?
I've never used
I think
it.
the US version would be Klarna or ePay. There's a number of them. That's one of the new tricks now with that, right? And so they make you to get whatever you want to get now and pay later, or maybe they can split the payment.
yes, I've seen that.
For 6 times, and of course, there's always interest added to all that. Those are tricks to kind of get us in debt, which is sad because I feel like these things are done intentionally to get people trapped.
Yeah, well, they take advantage of the poor community. You remember these rent-to-own companies?
I remember.
Right?
Yeah.
It's
Don't
like,
see them as much anymore, but I remember.
yeah, but
By rent to own.
well, basically, you pay a whole bunch of payments, and you're ended up. Let's say you want a washer and dryer or a living room set or something like that. You pay monthly payments for 36 months, and then it's yours. But guess what? You're paying for that 3 and 4 times over. And they like going after these military kids
Right.
because their money's guaranteed. And I think the same thing's happening with some of these larger commercial platforms where it's like, hey, this is $100. Did you want to pay now or did you want to pay it over payments?
Yeah, 3 payments, 4 payments.
Yeah, and then
And a little interest to it.
Yes.
Say 20%.
I fell victim to that when I came here. I think I had mentioned that when I needed furniture in the house, and I ran into a lot of debts. Like almost, I racked up like 2 different types of debts. Just within that period, I was given, I think, 3 months to pay it off, 100 days to pay it off, or else they will spread it to 36 hours.
And then they tack on backdate all that interest.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was like, no, this is not going to go more than 100 days. So it was quite, that first couple of months was really very tight for us because there's a lot of expenses. And that's where the problem is as well. Sometimes it's just a lack of knowledge. The Bible says that my people perish for lack of knowledge. When we came here, we were like, there were so many things we could have got in thrift store. But we came with like, how do you say that? Like, so we were coming, we had a pile of cash, and we were not sure what to expect, but we wanted and every day my wife would go to Target, she was kind of new as well, go to Target, spend like $2,000 buying stuff for
That's a lot of stuff.
That's what I'm trying.
I'm like, now afterwards we were like, oh man, it's still one of the things that we look back on, we're like, oh, that's bad decision.
But it's a learning experience. Good on you.
We could have just taken like $200 and gone to one of the thrift stores and get everything we needed. And, whenever we remember that, because we spent a lot of money just that first couple of weeks settling in and just, oh man. So my point is, there are times that if you really need to spend, and it's more or less, you really need to spend, and instead of getting in debt, think about other alternative ways to get those things sorted.
Good point. Yeah.
Check eBay. Instead of buying it new, just buy the stuff fairly used, and it might be 5% or 10% of the original price, right? That's a good bargain. Or maybe go to a thrift store in your area, or maybe an op store. Find those things, and it's also a good way to sustain the environment as well. So, if you can't deal with, if you really need to get those things, that could be one way to go about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Kevin, any final thoughts?
No, I think it boils down to discipline, like we kind of said throughout. I think that's the common theme of finances, and how to to continue to have a strong, healthy financial sense about you and your family is the discipline, making those right decisions.
Yeah, so I'll just wrap it up by saying, if the best advice I can give you is to create a budget.
Absolutely.
That way it's smacking you in the face every month, and you can see the reckless spending. Definitely do that. But to kind of circle back to the beginning, either you're not making enough money or you're spending too much. So it's up to you on how you're going to manage that. You're going to find us here on YouTube, or you're going to find us here on Rumble. And there's a lot of videos out there from financial advisors that can give you certain tips and tricks that'll help you out. And I hope you take advantage of that.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks so much. And I hope you've enjoyed this episode. And if you enjoy this or have any question, feel free to drop a comment, And you would also know that, we really care about the content that we provide. We know that it's election season, and we are intentionally staying up with the topic because we know it's very sensitive.
Absolutely.
And that shows that we care about you. Wanted to give you something that we know that will truly help you thinking about your finances in a very heated season. I think it's important.
So with that, I don't care who you vote for, just vote. Make sure you go vote.
Happen.
We'll see you on the next episode of The Three Neighbors. Bye.
See ya.